If you were to ask the average bride and groom what the most important thing is on their wedding day, ironically, not usually at the top of the list, is their actual wedding ceremony. Here with me today is Jim Manuel, who is an amazing wedding officiant here in the area. Thank you, Jim, for coming up to Saratoga. You got a really important job. I mean, if the DJ doesn't show up, the reception's gonna suck. If the cake doesn't show up, well, you're just not gonna have a cake to cut. But if you don't show up, what do you got?
An expensive party.
Amen. Amen. That's very true. So the first question I have for you is a wedding officiant. I mean, that is a humongous part of the day. There's so much that goes into that, and it's so significant. How on earth would you recommend a couple find the right officiant for them?
Well, I think one of the things you need to do is determine, does the person work with you? And this is what I tell people with all of their vendors.
Yeah.
There should be a harmonious relationship. I mean, we're sharing their day.
Yes.
And unless we work well with them, then I think that they probably should keep looking. You want to find somebody that there's a natural, easy rapport with.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be stressed. They're going to be forgetful.
That's
they're
true.
Relying on our professionalism.
That's a good way to put it. I think you're right. That does go across all manner of vendors. The more weddings that you've done, the more lessons you learn, et cetera. So vows. Mm-hmm. What is your recommendation to couples? Do you recommend that they memorize their own vows? How do you make sure that they're personal in the vows? Because I know your ceremonies in particular are very personal. So
yeah. Well, first of all, I would never suggest memorizing them.
Okay.
If you're able to memorize them, more power to you. But let's have a little note card just in case.
That's smart.
And I will also have them written out in their entirety in my presentation binder. So just in case the whole thing becomes overwhelming, I can simply slip the bride or groom my whole binder and they've got it all written out word for word.
That's smart. And then that way also if someone forgets them and they do one of these,
exactly.
You can just...
Exactly. And often I hold the piece of paper for the bride since usually there's nowhere to hide that in a wedding dress.
So that's true. How do you ensure that it's personal to their story, that their vows are a testament to who they are?
Absolutely. And I have a kit that I can provide which will help them. It's an article on writing vows, and with it we include some samples. And what I suggest is sit down with that blank piece of paper and just pretend you're having a conversation. Really, what is it? What you're doing on your wedding day is you are committing the rest of your life to somebody, but there must be a reason why.
Yeah.
Talk about what your feelings are, and this is difficult, especially for guys sometimes. I think one of the big fears is people are going to cry, and that certainly is not unusual.
The content of the, not necessarily the vows, but all the rest of the ceremony, how much input does a bride and groom have in the content of your message?
It's virtually unlimited.
Okay.
Per New York state law, you need to publicly state you take each other to be husband and wife. So we need to make sure that happens, which in all honesty means that I need about 3 sentences to make a wedding legal, and everything else, sky is pretty much the limit.
So what advice would you give a couple that is considering, I mean, there's lots of different styles of officiants that's out there. I mean, I have seen some where they have their brother do the ceremony. Then there's professional officiants is the category that I'd put you in. And then you have clergy or members of the church that you're getting married at their church, and this is simply an obligation that they have. What advice would you give a couple that's deciding between those?
Well, first of all, if you have a church that you're affiliated with, then I think that that's what makes sense for you.
Okay.
But we have a lot of people that have been brought up in a church. Yeah. Perhaps they have their own spiritual belief, but they're not necessarily affiliated with a church right now.
So you can sort of
that's absolutely that's one of our demographics.
Okay.
That we have an opportunity to put some spiritual elements in a ceremony. We can put some prayer. We can put some blessings. We can give them something that has something that will help them to feel that there are some proper religious elements in it. Just because they're not affiliated with a church at the moment doesn't mean that they should not be allowed to have that.
So Jim, for those couples that are in the process of looking at different officiants, how can they find you?
Well, you can probably the easiest way is to find us on the web at wemarryyou.com, and that has all of our contact information.
Perfect. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to come to Saratoga. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you out in the field.
Always a good opportunity to work with you, Dave.
Oh, thanks, Jim. So that's it for this week. Check back soon for some more great tips.
I typically tell clients I'm willing to do anything as long as it does not personally offend me. So we're not going to talk about animal torture or abusing children. Other than that...
Well, you just lost half your audience. Right there. Half the audience is now gone.
Not all business is good business.
Hi, are you going to block the shot again? Yep. No? Okay, we're done.